Hey everyone, this is Steve from GamersNexus.net, and today we're reviewing Shootmania Storm, which is Nadio and Ubisoft's new venture in classic Twitch shooting gameplay. First off, I want to note that I've already uploaded 2 gameplay videos from Shootmania, so if you're looking for raw footage and commentary while I'm actually playing the game, go check those out. They are linked in the description below. The full review is also linked there. That is a full written article. Okay, all of this out of the way. We need to talk about what Shootmania actually is. The game has kind of been around for about a year now in beta and alpha phases, but it's finally shipped, and it's been hitting the news with a couple pretty large tournaments. There's actually an Alienware $3,000 tournament coming up soon. So it's trying to make a splash in esports. But it's not just a competitive game. It has very good casual elements as well, making for a very fun Twitch arena-style shooter that can really be played by anyone. So the game fuses the skiing and momentum elements found in Tribes, or Tribes Ascend, with the Twitch shooting and arena format in Quake and Unreal Tournament. It's a brilliant mix of speed and precision, so honestly, I've been a big fan of this since I started playing a couple weeks ago, and Shootmania really tries to differentiate itself from the classic Twitch shooter genre by placing an even heavier emphasis on player skill and really removing a lot of the balance elements that can happen with, for example, multiple weapons. So, you're saying, why are you implying that there's only one weapon? Well, that's because there is actually only one weapon at any given time, and really only one weapon, period. There are 2 others technically, but they have very specific conditions that need to be met to use them, and I'll discuss that in a moment. Here's the thing with Shootmania. It operates very heavily. The entire design of the game is built around the idea of constraining the players. So you only have one weapon, you have a limited sprint duration, you have 2 shields. That's not a lot of health. You know, you can only get hit 2 times before you're out, basically. And then finally, the map for the free-for-all mode, which is sort of the standard mode right now, unless you're competitive. The map for the free-for-all mode, which is called Royal, will compress as gameplay goes on. So each new map, there's a pole in the middle. A player will run and capture that pole. That initiates a storm, and the storm starts on the outskirts of the level and moves in slowly until eventually, a couple minutes later, you're stuck with just the central part of that map. So it constrains players, forces them inward. Anyone caught in the storm is immediately eliminated, and then obviously, by nature of being forced closer together, the players in the outer perimeter who are kind of hanging out and trying to camp will be forced to abandon their sites and fight each other more directly. So this does a lot of things. First of all, it eliminates camping almost entirely. It keeps the game very fast-paced because rounds are pretty strictly limited to only 5 or so minutes. As soon as a player grabs that pole, that flag, it gives them points, so there's incentive to capture it, and it starts the storm, which then starts forcing players inward, and it starts down a timer. So when you're eventually left with just the middle of the map as playable space, the rest of it is in the storm, just the middle of the map. The player count is normally reduced to around 2 or 3 at this point, and they juke and battle each other until finally a victor is declared. If there is no victor, then the timer will expire and it will be a draw. So that's really the gist of the constraints. That's the game design. And even with the weapon, we mentioned there's only one weapon. Even with that one weapon, there's one more constraint on top of it being your only active weapon at any time, and that is it has limited shots. So for the plasma cannon, which is our standard issue weapon for every character, you only get 4 shots consecutively in rapid succession before it needs to recharge. So that means each shot needs to be methodically placed and really carefully timed, because if you miss, especially if you rapid fire all 4 shots, if you miss, you're out of luck until basically until it recharges. And at that time, it's entirely up to you to move your ability to dodge shots incoming from other players. And on that note, I've been saying in these last 2 videos I just talked about in the written review, I've been saying there are 3 huge elements to Shootmania. 1 is your ability to aim, self-explanatory. 2 is your ability to move around and dodge, basically your dexterity, also self-explanatory. And 3 is speed and momentum, and here's where we start talking about the other game modes. First of all, a huge aspect of the rewarding elements of of Shootmania, because it does not reward you with unlockables and level ups and all of that shiny stuff. It rather rewards you just by you being better and feeling good about that. And it does sound kind of stupid to say it, but it's true. It is a very rewarding game just to play, and that is awesome. So as far as speed and momentum go, the game really is all about your, other than the shooting, the aiming, the dodging, your ability to move quickly and really navigate the map in a manner that puts you at a constant advantage. And the game has a couple of small tweaks, I suppose, in the way momentum is calculated. So there is a curve, and it's not just something you can't just like hold down spacebar and instantly be fast. There is a trick to it, so there's a lot to learn just in that aspect alone. There's stuff to learn in the wall jumping, the obstacle overcoming aspect, and by the way, there's a full game mode for that, as we've mentioned. And then, of course, there's a lot to learn just in aiming and in learning when to fire your shots. So the game is all about rewarding the player for learning how to play it, not necessarily being good like Call of Duty does. And that, to me, is a huge reason that it is an appealing game to all audiences, including both the more casual side and the more competitive side, who can play the 3 versus 3 elite mode. And that's just, let's talk briefly about that before we conclude here. The game has a couple modes. It has Royal, the free-for-all mode we've talked about and shown. It has Obstacle, we've talked about and shown, and that's a player-made mode, by the way. It has Joust, which is 1 versus 1 duels with other players, and that's pretty cool. It's a lot of fun. It's completely different health count, different way the weapons work. It really switches things up. Then there's Elite, which is basically a 3 versus 3 one-person juggernaut rotation. What that means is each team has there's an attacker and a defender. The attacking team has one player in play, so the other two are sitting on the bench. That one player is going up against the 3 defenders who are defending a pole. The attacker must either eliminate all 3 defenders or capture the pole once it is available for capture. It's not immediate. There's a little bit of strategy to it. And all of this noted, the elite player, as the name implies, has the hit scan railgun, which is a one-hit kill in this mode, and he also has 3 shields, whereas the defenders will have 1 shield each and are stuck on the plasma cannon, making for a very difficult, really tight competition. It comes down to numbers and the defending team's ability to communicate where the attacker is. That way they can sort of stick together. As soon as you break apart, the attacker is at a huge advantage, like a ninja in the night or something, just can assassinate them one by one. So that's the competitive mode. And really, just to wrap things up here, Shootmania, personally, because this is a review, I have to give you some opinions here. I think it's a fantastic game. For 20 bucks all day long. Buy it. I would buy it again. It does have some bugs, just in like minimizing, for example. I've had to restart the game a couple times because of minimizing. Nothing huge though, nothing like actually game breaking or prohibitive that I've experienced. And as far as other downsides, there really aren't any major ones. Perhaps the community is a little bit small, but still, as long as you're playing at a reasonable time at night or afternoon, you're going to find a game just fine. And if you're trying to play in the middle of the day, I'm speaking strictly to North American servers here. If you're trying to play in the middle of the day, well, you're going to have a little bit harder time with the Royal and competitive modes, but you can drop into player-made modes all day long, no problem. Like Obstacle will tide you over just fine. So the game does have a bit of a following in Europe. It's growing in North America, and I personally hope to see it grow a lot more. I would love to sponsor a tournament in the future, but we will talk more about that separately. Go check out the other 2 videos for gameplay looks, just pure gameplay, and go to the description below for links to those, link to the review, link to everything you need to know about us, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.